Today's what date is today?
September 7th.
7. Okay, today's 7th of September, 2017 anyway. We are still continue reading the book, The Foundation of Buddhism, and then we come to the chapter 7th. Anyway, I'm not sure how people think, but anyway, that's one of my favorite chapter. The Buddhist path, or the way of calm and insight. I mean, maybe I just want to say a few words first. I mean, one thing why I think is my favorite. One reason, of course, about the concept of no self, Four Noble Truths. Those who could conclude that it's more like the what to call like the essence of Buddhist teachings, or maybe you could also even understand kind of like. Even if you are not really in practical sense, but you could even look at it from a philosophical aspect or perspective, from a philosophical perspective. But in this chapter, the Buddhist path, I guess, and also answer lots of questions of people's, the people are learning Buddhism even in nowadays, or even from the old time, even until now. So not necessarily that you will agree everything that the books say, but this is not about a book. Actually, there's a lot of quotation which is that all are from the early Buddhism. So if you still believe that the early Buddhism at least represent a certain tradition that close to the Buddha's time, because I mean, if people study history, know that the early one, the all tradition agree that in earlier time there was like a lot of arahants. So and then they actually was. Passed down their teachings. Later on, of course, there was certain kind of Buddhism also not 100% agree in everything that what the early Buddhism is about. But that's all right. But always when you want to study, we are talking about now study now, when you learn something, you have to learn earlier time first, what they were saying, how they understand. Maybe something that for some reason that, whatever reason, and then the later maybe oppose the idea. And even by understanding how the earliest thinking, that helps you to even have a better picture of why they oppose that, even something that they disagree with upon with, on what ground, or on what side, and in what way, and they were really opposed to. But anyway, I'm not here to say anything. I would just like to put it the book open, kind of like. But I just want to say that, and this, the Buddhist path, at least answer one question is about, for example, there are certain traditional ways, they like to say that, I'm not saying in study everybody know this is not the case, but I'm saying that in a common sense, a common way that people study Buddhism, they always think that you can get enlightenment just by sudden. It's almost like you don't have to do anything. And wait till the Buddha comes and just knock your head and then you're enlightened. So. And I always say that, don't think that that is only you like it. Some people even have kind of fanciful idea. I even like it. If I think that I can just see the Buddha and I got enlightened, then I don't have to do anything. And all my karma will be washed out, all my things will be gone. Everybody like it, but unfortunately, it looks like when you really have a mind to think about it, so then during the Buddha's time, then the whole India will become all enlightened being. So, including that non-Buddhist believer, right? Because the Buddha is the best, he could do everything, and so, but you could say no, but the Sakyamuni Buddha is a loser, but I mean, I don't think you want to say that too. I'm sure you know that even in India at that time, even though Buddhism was very successful in a certain way, but it doesn't mean that everybody met the Buddha, so they get enlightened as well. Not even they don't get enlightenment, even some of them, they even have still stick on their foolish idea. They don't want to give up their foolish idea too, right? So this is why I want to say when you study a sort of like early Buddhism, you might be somehow get a little more sense about, something with what we fantasy and what we really had to face. We are no more children, and we are not talking about a kid's story, like even nowadays, I know that the movie, even the kid story has become more complicated now. The simple version of kid story doesn't work that much now. Anyway, now back to this. So this is now we're back to the chapter 7, the Buddhist path, the way of calm and insight. So if we really read at this book again and again, like for myself, I read the book for many times already. So and then you always find something that he was trying to say something. Not necessarily, the book is so small, and I don't think he wanted to, and also it's quite tedious if he want to mention everything. But it carries certain meanings over on every line there. All right, so why don't we just first start to read the first introductory remarks? Yeah.
Introductory remarks. The previous two chapters have focused on the Buddhist understanding of the nature of the world and of the individual. We have seen how Buddhist thought sees the world of our experience as constructed in dependence upon a variety of conditions, the most crucial of which are greed, hatred, and delusion. The discussion of cosmology itself, the dependent rising in effect, represents an elaboration of the first and second of the Four Noble Truths, namely suffering and its arising. The discussion has at times touched upon quite technical areas of Buddhist intellectual theory. We come now to the fourth truth, the path leading to the cessation of suffering, the practice of Buddhism. In this connection also, Buddhist tradition provides us with rather elaborate theoretical accounts, this time focusing on the stages of the path. There is sometimes the idea in the West that Buddhism is an overly philosophical and intellectual religion, but we should be careful not to mistake Buddhism's intellectual theories for Buddhism itself, just as we should not confuse learning to swim with gaining an understanding of the theory of buoyancy and propulsion, of being able to play a musical instrument with an exact theoretical knowledge of where one has to put one's fingers on a fretboard or keyboard will produce a certain melody. Such theoretical knowledge may be useful in the process of learning, but the experience of practice is never quite what one's understanding of theory leads one to expect.
Okay, I don't think that we have anything to mention that first, and why don't we just go to the second paragraph? Yeah.
Buddhist theory is, then, the soil in which understanding may grow. It should, moreover, be considered as more for the benefit of monks or committed lay followers, who already have some basis in ordinary everyday Buddhist practice, than for the beginner. The vast majority of Buddhists today, as in the past, do not concern themselves with intellectual theory, but with basic Buddhist practice. There are, furthermore, traditions in Buddhism that are somewhat critical of theory. Suggesting too much at the wrong time may clutter our minds and actually get in the way of practice that can eradicate attachment and bring true wisdom. With this in mind, let us turn to the theoretical account of the path that leads to the cessation of suffering.
Okay. I think so. Yeah.
As we saw in chapter 3, in the earliest Buddhist text, the noble truth of the path to the cessation of suffering is most frequently summed up as the Noble Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. But rather than presenting it as equivalent to Buddhist practice in general, Buddhist writing usually understand the Noble Eightfold Path in a more restricted sense, implied by the epithet noble, Arya. The term indicates that one who has established these 8 qualities have in fact found a way to cessation of suffering, like one finding a path in a jungle leading to a beautiful city. But the ordinary man, Putujana?
No, in Sanskrit, Pritakjana. Yeah.
Pritakjana, who is plagued by greed, hatred, and delusion, cannot simply call into being the right view of such noble one, Arya, who have found the path. He cannot, as it were, simply open the door and set out on the Noble Eightfold Path. First, he must negotiate with the jungle of his view, behavior, and emotions in order to find the 8 qualities. Much of the Buddhist path is thus concerned not so much with walking the Noble Eightfold Path as with finding the Noble Eightfold Path. The Buddhist practitioner thus set out on the ordinary path of the Buddhist practice in order to gradually transform view, intention, speech, action, endeavor, mindfulness, and concentration into the 8 quality of Noble Path. Once on the Noble Path, he may further develop and perfect these 8 qualities and follow the path to the complete cessation of suffering.
All right, and why don't we just read the next paragraph? Maybe you can divide it into 2.
It is the structure of the step-by-step discourse. Anupurvikata.
No, Anupurvika. Purvika kata. It's okay. Just learn how to pronounce a little bit. Yeah. But of course, if you want to pronounce a Pali, it's a later one. Anupurvikata. Yeah.
It's easier.
Rather than the eightfold path that informs the general accounts of the Buddhist path as a graduate progression from the fundamental practice of generosity, dana, and conduct, sila, to the cultivation of concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, pana, by means of meditative development, bhavana. The often repeated step-by-step discourse represents perhaps the most succinct statement of this gradual path in the Nikaya Agamas. An equally early but fuller expression is found in the schema of the Fruit of Asceticism.
Samaññaphala. Or Samaññaphala. Yeah.
An essential stock account of the past, which is again repeated with slight variation in a number of places in the Nikaya.
Version Nikaya is Nikaya.
Nikaya Agama.
No Agama, Agama.
Agama. This schema is assumed and in one way or another adapted by the later manuals such as
Visuddhimagga.
Visuddhimagga, the Abhidhamma Kosa.
It's not Dhamma. Abhidharma Kosa.
Abhidhamma Kosa. Kamalas.
No, Kamala.
Kamalas.
Sila.
I'm going to
Bhavana. No, you have to read that. Bhavana Krama. Okay.
Stages of meditation, 8th century, and also Chinese and later Tibetan works such as
智意 摩诃止觀 Great Calm.
and insight, and
修行止观
座谈法要.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check that. The essential for sitting in.
No, there's still one more.
Let's do one more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. You.
Meditation, calm
That is.
and insight, 6th
Yeah.
century, and then that's
Gampopa.
Gampopa's
Tapa Rinpoche. Yeah.
jewel ornament
Of liberation.
解脱庄严宝
Yeah.
达成
Yeah.
提到次第论
And the Shanghapas. No, that 次第论是 Shanghapas. 南林仙魔。
是菩提道
次
次第广论
对，南林仙魔。
南人仙魔
You don't have to read Chinese for that because that's originally Tibetan.
Yeah, but I want to know which book that
Okay, that's all right. Okay, yeah. The great.
the great graduated path, 14th century. It is within this basic framework that I shall set out Buddhist practice. I will be referring to the details as set out by Buddha Gosa in his
Visuddhimagga.
Visuddhimagga and Vasubandhu in his
Abhidharma
Kosa. Since both these accounts acquired a certain authority for those that followed, it must be emphasized, however, that the Buddhist meditation tradition is extremely rich, and the material I am presenting embodies a tradition of creative adaptation that continues down to the present day. Important approaches to the practice of Buddhist meditation that I am forced to pass over including Chan, Japanese Zen, and the esoteric system of Tibetan Tantra, Chinese
正言
Zhen Yan, Japanese Shingon, and the less well-known esoteric Theravada tradition.
All right, thank you. All right, so any comment first, and before I'm going to give you read a little sutra, but before that, any comment, any discussion, or so, what's about that? So far, do you have any anything you want to add?
I just really like how he mentioned in the Noble Eightfold Path. It is more important finding a noble path rather than walking it, because a lot of people out there just like, wow, you can do this, you are walking the Noble Eightfold Path. But that doesn't really fall into a definition of noble. Like, you have to be like a saint in order to be called a chariot.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm not here to answer question, but I mean, anyone want to say anything? So, just have a little discussion first before we read the sutra.
But it's a gradual thing, though. I mean, because if you have, to me, you start with a little level of confidence. It's like chipping or sculpturing.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be perfect to start with, but at least take the first step. Because I was under that impression that I will have to find it and it has to be right, and that I really saw that it was wrong view, you know, because to start accepting perfection and just start, and with a Noble Eightfold Path and the right speech and understanding first. I think theoretical understanding is very, very important because it lays the map. And it lays like a guidepost, but it doesn't matter if one is not a saint. In other words, that will happen gradually without getting attached.
Yeah, but I mean, looks like you agree with him already, because you have to fight first. It's not really, because the thing is, yeah, you could say what.
I think my main idea is you cannot call yourself walking the noble path when you are not a noble person. But in order to get there, we also, just like you mentioned, we have to gradually step in that direction, and by practicing wholesome actions and cultivating ourselves. So I think we're in agreement. I think.
Right, and sometimes, for instance, in my case, I didn't even know I found it. In other words, that's what I was just saying. Before I was thinking that I have to find it and it has to be clear, and that was a stumbling block that it helped me. But you know, if we just start and just have this a little bit, there is a Pali word that's called sada. It's like confidence. You just have this confidence that it'll come if we can just persevere, just right effort, just keep going, and then it becomes clearer and clearer. But even that finding has to be polished. So it's just starting.
Yeah, but I think it is. But I think because we are reading the book now, and the book actually, I guess even though you might be somehow bring it to that subject, but it's still you are more emphasis. Looks like at least it looks to me. It sounds to me that you are more like talking about a practical part. So I mean, actually, this is one of the really big discussion as well. Like for some people, they will think that. This is actually have much to do with understanding the word path also. We know that, we always know there's a Noble Eightfold Path, right? And then the last one is the path one. So if the first one we say is a dukkha, right? And then, let's say I use Sanskrit. And then the second one is no. What is that? The origin of the dukkha. What is the Sanskrit, the Pali word even? Samudaya. Okay, and then you have the third one is you have the cessation, nirodha. Okay, and the fourth one is the marga, or say Pali, marga. Okay. So, like the book say, actually we discussed that already. And then we also talk about the original of the suffering, and then we actually somehow we also talk the Nirodha, about the no self and so forth, right? So now we are talking in the Marga. So, I mean, this kind of layout is a little interesting also. It's like, you know, there are people who argue that actually, in order to understand the teachings, kind of like that's mean by walking on. So you start to walk on the path, you know. But that's the reason why, especially in Abhidhamma tradition later on, they have that kind of discussion is not coming from nothing. They are coming from something. Something is that, for example, they always discuss the Marga. When we say that when somebody walk on the path, does it always has to be walk on the path? The person is a noble person or not a noble person? I mean, not the Buddhajana, not the like ordinary person. So that's one of the big discussion over there. But of course, either it's just only the borderline is from where. But some agree that it has to be close to a noble person. But some say no, it has to be noble person only. Really walk on the path. Otherwise, all the time they are still not walking on the path. That's that they have two kind of opinions. But what I want to say is that still even they have two kind of opinions, but even the other opinion, which is you could say you can be a noble person, walk on the path, but they say it's just only, even that also restricted to people actually they really see the Four Noble Truths already. Yes. In other words, then they really are on the path. Otherwise, the path is still searching. It's kind of like that. Okay, I guess I just leave this. I don't mean that this, as I say, when you study Buddhism, do not expect that we give answer, because answer is always you have to get the answer, not that people giving you answer. You know, that's called blind faith. But you have to get the answer by yourself. But I'll just give you like a hint, and that is actually is one of the very important way, because if people do not have that, not necessarily you agree with upon or everything, but at least you know there was some kind of understanding which agree in the past by majority, you could say. So now, if that's the case, so now we also understand the Marga. The Marga is in the early Buddhism is always defined to be the Eightfold Path, right? Noble Eightfold Path. I guess this is what he carried this kind of understandings. I mean that you know, when we say that there was a Arya, so mean that you always refer to the noble person, and then also you also talk about the path is always referred to the Eightfold Path. That this path then anything to do with what we call, now we need to discuss about now, there's talk about, then since the path is a noble path, and of course we know that we practice also have to understand there's another term. The term is called there's a term here called, let me see how to say in English here. There's a step-by-step discourse. So, right? So, and in other words, mean it's the path, it goes step by steps. And this is in the, if you are, because it's like the argument is that if you think that there's a path that you can walk upon, and what is the content of the path beside the Noble Eightfold Path. And then this path is whether it's step by step or not. But of course here it doesn't want to, I think the author really know that it doesn't want to go with we are discussion. When you write a book, you have a different mental setting. So basically, and first he said very clearly in the early Buddhism that when we talk about there's a path, then we always understand the path is always go step by steps. Okay, so I guess that's one of the things. Maybe here people do not oppose anything, but in case that you are studying from different tradition, and they will really use, especially the Chinese, as I know, some Chinese, and when you study different tradition, when you hear the step by step, they really get very angry. Yeah. That's why this is, when you study, this is called study, you know, then you have to know much about whatever happening in the world, the Buddhism. So they will really get angry. They would think that was really not the case. And that really actually completely define the Buddha's word. Yeah, that's when we study Buddhism, we cannot use our concept thinking that everybody would like that. Actually, there are some other way of training, I would say, and they might not necessarily agree upon the step by step, to walk on the path. Okay. All right. Any other thing? I just want to bring that up. Yeah.
I'm not very familiar with the fruits of the asceticism.
I'm going to read that sutta.
Oh,
I'll give
okay.
you the sutta later. Yeah. So. Any other thing that questions or what? No? And everybody understands the textbook called. But here in the next chapter, certainly, I mean, the next paragraph, the last paragraph we read, certainly it said that, there's old school or the graduate path, certainly we talk about the dana, the sila, the prajna, and the bhavana, right? The generosity, the 布施嘛, the generosity, and then the virtue, sila, 持戒, in Chinese, prajna, the samadhi and the concentration, or you could say samadhi, and then the wisdom, prajna, and wisdom, through what? To meditation or practice, bhavana, okay? And then, so that's actually clearly depicted in the sutra that we are going to read later, that called the Fruit of Asceticism, Samaññaphala or Samaññaphala Sutta. Actually, the sutta is from the Long Discourse, the Ika Nikaya, the second sutta of the Long Discourse. And then, but if you might be thinking, okay, that's just a sutta, maybe, but when you look at all the tradition, which is the most famous about, when you start to discuss about the all Buddhist path, like the Visuddhimagga, the Qingjin Daolun, so like the Abhidharma-kosa, so it's belong to another school called Sarvastivada school. Actually, they do have a very wonderful way of describing how you should practice to become the saint. I think in that perspective, they are even more clear than the Pali. So that's like Abhidharma-kosa, so it belongs to the school called Sarvastivada. I still belong to so-called the Hinayana for the Mahayana schools. I mean, they practice arahantship. It's Abhidharma-kosa is not a Mahayana text, but it's for the Sravakayana. So, and then you have the Jie-xian, Lianhua Jie, Kamala Sila, Lianhua is Kamala. So, and the very famous one, Bhavana Kranma. Actually, those texts are even they have in Sanskrit. The Abhidharma-kosa even they have in Sanskrit, been translated in English. But the Bhavana Krama, unfortunately, is not translated fully in English. Maybe some people do research, they do have a little, but they have the recension in Sanskrit in Tibetan. And the Chinese also have some translation, very earlier time, but little strange translation, but not very complete also. Yeah, but they do have, but especially in the Gelug school, not necessarily Gelug, but just especially in Gelug school, like Dalai Lama, for example. They usually, not only Dalai Lama, like a Gelug school and other school events also, they always quote this Kamala Silas, Bhavana Krama. Bhavana, mean meditation. Krama mean graduate, mean the graduate path or graduate way of meditation. 就是道次哈，就是禅修道次或修行次第啊。And then the Chinese, of course, even the Chinese also, then the only so-called the Chinese monk, not only, I won't say so-called, you could say the very unique Chinese system that they have formulated the whole system into one based on the graduate path. It's the Tentai school. And then that's why the book by Zhi, the Chinese, called the Muho Ziguan is one of them, okay? And then the other one is I forgot the Chinese. 就是修行什么好像修行作息哈，做成法要对啊And that Genpo Ba is also one of Tibetan very important traditions. So and then they also have written that, and the Sangha Bas that of course nowadays, especially in Taiwan, is really popular. And the funny thing is that they always say, only when you read that, then you know what is a graduate path, how do you practice. But actually, in all traditions, always there. But what I want to say that it's even in Chinese tradition they're always there, but unfortunately because of Chinese culture, somehow that didn't bring it up nicely, you know. So that's why a lot of Chinese even, I mean, as I say, the Tentai actually, they, according to the original Tentai, or even according to the Chinese sources, they have a lot of this graduate path thing, but nobody really, they didn't bring it up really nicely. That's why then they come to learn the Tibetan, the Buddhist and Namni Shemo, for example, and they always told me that I just get really difficult to deal with that. I said, I mean, actually, like I always say, we really have a reading class used to for the Chinese text. Even Kumarajiva, when he first just arrived to China the third day, he teach meditation and teach you the whole path, the graduate path. But nobody know about that, and the text is there, you know, like that. I mean, and that's the most simple version that he have given actually about meditation technique and everything. So, but I'm not here to say what, but I just say it's. I mean, when you study Buddhism, you have to know. Sometimes don't take whatever people say, even including me. You have to get more understanding, you know. So what, you know, when the people say, oh, you know, that's the only book that tells the graduate path, and that's how I can start to know the way. That's only here. No, that's not true. Okay, I mean, of course, you just listen, okay, you know, but you need to understand well. This is why you come for a book discussion, you know. As I say, I'm not here to ask you to say you get something the only answer. There's no only answer, but you open your, how to say, your vision, yeah. All right. So, and this thing actually later he will maybe talk about that, but he also said very clearly something we are not going to discuss here. So it's a Zen Buddhism because it's quite complete in, at least I don't totally think that it's completely different and as usually people think, but you know, but as a general picture, so that's how they are thinking. And also other that he's not going to deal with here. So, all right, I guess, have anyone here read the Visuddhimagga? A little bit, at least, yeah. The Power of Purification. Anyone here have read Tsongkhapa's Ramni Shemo Buddhist Guanun? Okay, anyone here have read this Abhidhamma Kosa? Abhidhamma, you were reading Abhidhamma Kosa, Abhidhamma?
Abhidhamma.
Oh, that's the different. Okay, Abhidhamma Kosa is another that's mentioned here. So actually the Abhidhamma Kosa, I mean, similar to that, I've been taught in New York before, almost a year. So, and that's on okay. But I mean, in case you're really interested, or even this is Bhavana Krama. Actually, Bhavana Krama, as I said, only in Tibetan, not in English, not in Chinese. It's not very long passage. Most of the actually Tibetan way of learning is how to perceive the body or the mental and body, like to emptiness. The whole earlier chapter is all based on this Bhavana Krama. Because the Bhavana Krama means you still have the almost, as just mentioned already, have a very similar system as we are going to later on going to read. Okay. So, I mean, this is actually the wonderful of the book. I want to say again is not very, even though he said very clearly, mostly he's based on early Buddhism sources, but still, you know, have a background of, you know, other tradition as well. Okay. Because I didn't have time to print a lot, and I think not everybody need that all, but I would just, I don't know how many copy over here, but I think we can take a little time, just read the sutra now. The Samaññaphala Sutta, I mean here the translation, and my translation a little different, just, I'll take that, and then why don't you just two people share each sutta, so in case if you, maybe I don't need it also, if you don't, just pass it on later. I will just go through your, I just want to know the heading, and I don't want to mix up, yeah. I can see the party, it's okay.
This is a whole set.
15 pages.
This is a one set.
Okay,
Yeah, one of the sutra. Actually, I even cut some of them.
It's a long sutra.
Maybe 3 person one, I guess. I mean, if you need, you know, you can find online. But I have a little modification there. I will tell you why. I mean, I don't have to tell why, but you can look at yourself. So. Okay.
We're out.
Any? It's okay?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, if it 3 people could share, 3 people share 1, right? Unless we have extra. Do we have extra?
Yeah. How about you, sir?
No. Why don't you just 3 go there and then?
I'll just smile.
我给你坐这里，那你这边行不行看？你做什么弄？
I don't think I want to read that, but I just only read a little passage, only one passage. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
No, I would say about the content, so that's why we want to save time. You know.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Could you please give me the reference so that I can see if I can find it and pull it up on my Kindle?
Yeah, you could look at. I mean, could you type the name Samaññaphala? You know, could you see that on the page?
Spell that out for me?
No. Could you look at the? You have the book, right? 165, page 165. Do you have a book, or you're using book, or you're using iPad, or what?
Yeah. I've got it on my Kindle. So,
Or your Kindle. But if you have a computer, so you might have to look at the computer.
No, it's in the iPad. So.
I know, but I want to say the sutta, you have to look from the computer. Yeah.
Okay. So what I can do is I can go search it on the web and then pull it up on my iPad.
That's what I mean. So if you only the best way to search is you look for the name. You have to type the party name. Then you can find on your Kindle or what. I mean, on the book here, it's called. You know, they have the name called the Fruit of Asceticism. But you know, you couldn't find this kind of name there. You had to find the fruit of what is that? No. That's I collect it. So that's why I say the best you just type Samaññaphala, Samanna. You know.
Actually, I have her email. I'll just send it to her.
Okay, he will just send it to you. 你要找那个 Tanisaro 的。
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
I found it.
Yeah, he will send it to you. Okay.
Okay.
But I have some correction there, but it's okay. But you just read online there. Okay.
It's from.
What's the name of that? The translation called the life of what? I forgot. He earlier he translated. I put the footnote there. What is the name? He used the not recluse.
I actually found the website.
I know, but I have some correction. Now it's not about. I didn't copy. I copy everything, but anyway, you would know. Later I will discuss that because I think something he didn't translate that too. That's why I add something, and I didn't finish the whole thing because I just glanced through it. So that's why, and I also not necessarily agree with all his translation. Like he was using. I used recluse, but what the term he used?
Okay, I just sent it out on the email. See if she can see it.
Contemplative. He said that is a contemplative life. You know, it's too modern. You know.
Cheryl, can you see the text I sent out?
You can come here and talk.
Oh, okay. Where is she?
I don't know, on the phone.
I'm on the phone.
Yeah, Cheryl. Check your email. I just sent out a link in the email. So if you just click on that link, you can find that sutra.
Yeah, I just clicked on a link. I see. The fruits of the contemplative life.
Yes, got it.
Okay, good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. Now let's just go to the sutra a little bit. I don't ask you to read, but in order to save a little time. Okay. All right. At first, you know, this is always say, Evam me suttam, that's if I heard. You know, that's Ananda said that's how I heard. So, and then it's almost like the trademark, okay? Approved mark, saying that that's the one approved. Of course, later on, you know, you can have a lot of fake thing too, but you know, but I mean, we are not talking about that now, but it's just saying that in earlier time, that's the way they say, that's how we prove this is the original version. So that's I have, you know, at the time actually the Buddha was living in the Rajagaha, okay. What something happened there is that time the king called Ajatasattu, right? Asasewan, Ajatasattu. So, and he's the son of the mother. What's her name? The queen. Videdaha. So, I mean, everybody, if you read the Chinese, they know that that's a very famous story. Videdaha, anyone know the Videdaha problem? No? You know, that's actually because the son, Ajatasattu, before his father, Bimbisara, was passed away, he wanted to become a king. And according to that, that definitely is a legendary story saying that why then he wanted to kill his father. So because from the very beginning, he was told actually his father never liked him, wanted to kill him many times. But of course, we never know which version is correct. But certainly true that, not true, certainly the record saying that. So, and the father said he misunderstood all what he did. You know, like, you know, when a father take care of a child, sometimes something happens. For example, there was a time he got hurt. He was worried that his blood is going to non-stop, so he's going to like suck his blood off. But it could be read at a different way. He wanted his child die because he worried that his child is going to kill his father, kill him. So basically, anyway. That's a long story. If you like to read this kind of story, there are lots of very interesting. Buddhism have lots of wonderful story and lots of morality going on, telling you that. Anyway, at the end, so he was how to say, imprisoned, right, without giving him food, right. So if you add some Mahayana story and the Mahayana, especially the very famous Amitabha about Amitabha. According to Mahayana, how this Amitabha was introduced actually is because when Ajatasattu's mother was really hopeless. So anyway, that's a Mahayana way of saying. I'm not going to talk that now. So, but certainly in Theravada, they don't have that kind of story. But generally, I mean, they don't have the story. Mean the story about, you know, the Amitabha Buddha. So, but here the story is like that, and then. And so for sure, Buddha and then this Devi, mean the queen, actually they know each other very well. Okay. Anyway, so that's the reason why I want to mention the mother names. So just to clear, this Ajatasattu is not other Ajatasattu, it's this Ajatasattu. That's the old way they want, the way they. When you read sutra, you have to understand every word they put it there. They must. You know, in old day you need to remember by heart. Of course, every word put it there, they had to really consider it well. You know. Okay, and then, but what happened that time, it was a wonderful moon night, you know. So, and at the time, during the moonlight time, and the king suddenly have this kind of good mood. You know, and also, this also carry with the Indian culture. The full moon day and the new moon day, especially the full moon day, it always something to do with the spirituality in the culture. They always believe the full moon day is a very mystical kind of day. So, and then he become, anyway, and everybody can become the enlightenment. That's the reason why in the Buddhism, even the full moon day also said the Buddha was born during the full moon day and passed away in the full moon day and become enlightenment in the full moon day. Okay, so whether that was really is a record is really agreeable to you or not, I don't know, because you know in Tibetan or in Chinese they don't have that record, only in Pali have that way of saying it. So we never know this how it early can pass down. But one thing is for sure, I mean the full moon day is very holy for their kind of culture. So I know that the king was thinking that that was such a good day, so he must go to see somebody, really holy person. You know, a holy day must meet a holy person. You know, of course, this kind of culture I think is lost nowadays in America, especially. And then this holiday is everybody not thinking about that way. You know. Anyway, so he was asking his ministers, you know, whom he should go to see as a holy person. So each minister, every different minister, so that's why I cut, that's the only passage I cut, you know. The cut, they suggest that they should see those different, they believe they are the good teachers. And also, but anyway, so their suggestions, but the Buddha, actually not Buddha, the king Ajatasattu didn't reply. But then you know the answer why later. So he didn't reply, just keep quiet. After they suggested, why don't you see Purana Kassapa, like Nigandanatha Buddha and so forth. So he didn't reply. So, but until that one of the minister, what is his name? If I don't say that, you don't read it. The Jivaka, okay. And then the Jivaka actually replied that, yeah, actually the Buddha, so you could go to see the Buddha. So I guess, I don't want to say this long story. I can talk the story for long, I can add up a lot of things. But basically, so I just have to agree that he should see the Buddha now. So the thing is then he summoned, you know, he think this is really a big day. He have a good mood, right? Have a happy mood. And then as a king, he want to go to see somebody holy, suggested by the minister called Jivaka. So, and he should go to see him, and then he need to summon a lot of big audience, like nowadays, 就是叫排场, So then a king go out, you know, entourage, you need to have a lot of big entourage to show you're powerful, right? So, and then that's why he have to take a lot of these beautiful women and the cards and so forth along with him. So, and to show that he's really serious about that, you know. So, and yeah, of course, and as been directed by the Jivaka, so he arrived in the Rajagaha, in that, the kuti there. And then on the way, actually, upon arriving, so not reaching to where the Buddha lived, so he was very afraid, you know, according to the sutta. He was afraid because it was so quiet, you know. And he started to doubt that whether any of these ministers set him out, you know. So, you know that for a person, for this kind of so-called warriors, they don't afraid when you have a lot of war, fighting, shouting going on, but they will worry when everything is so quiet. So that shows something about the monastery is very quiet too. So, and anyway, then he arrived, and then he was pursued that, do not afraid, you know, go ahead. Anyway, he arrived and he met the Buddha. After he met the Buddha, he was asking the Buddha a question, okay? What's the first question he was asking? This is how you remember, because those are the important points, like examination. What is the first question they were asking? No, if we asked when he met the Buddha, he did talk to the Buddha. What did the first thing he talked to the Buddha?
I think he was asking, I mean, everyone has a certain type of joy in life or a certain sense of achievement. Why should you go forth and become a bhikkhu? Like, why is that so much better than...
Is that that's not the first question.
Oh.
Come on, there's no first question?
Yeah, but it's the whole paragraph.
No, the first question. He met the Buddha, what did he say?
He didn't ask the question.
Oh, whatever, okay, maybe not question first. What did he say?
May my son, Prince Uddaya, enjoy the same peace that this community of monks now enjoys.
Who said that?
The king.
Yeah?
Because the prince didn't kill him.
Okay, and then the second question? This is how you can read faster.
For my son, Prince Uddaya, it's very dear to me. May he enjoy the same peace as this community of monks now enjoys.
So he was just, basically he was just,
saying the same thing?
Yeah, So, again. And then what then later, what did he do?
He bowed down to the Buddha.
Okay.
Salute to the Sangha.
Mm-hmm.
And with his hands palm over his heart.
Okay.
On one side.
All right. Okay, just stop there first. He bowed to the Buddha, and then he bowed to the Sangha, and then he closed his palm, and he sit on one side. Okay. What does it mean? Firstly, when you say bow to the Buddha, of course, that's you could say kind of like a tradition, or they do that. And then, but he will bow to the Sangha also. Usually, he doesn't need to, right, as a king, but he did that. All right, that's at least to show something. And the third thing, he will close his palm. Why? It means that he somehow been convinced already that he could learn something from this person. I mean, the Buddha. So he want to close the palm because that shows he's really, I can pay attention really well. Okay. So, and that's the culture, you know, like if you look at other sutras, sometimes you see that another sutra, when they say they met the Buddha, some people, they close up, they put their hand this way and they were just standing, they were what, you know, that's actually show because you have to know their culture. Culturally mean they are not 100% respect that the person they met mean the Buddha they met, you know. But here it's very clear, at that time it was immediately he was convinced he can learn something from there. By what? Because the silence. So, and he started to feel that actually the silence itself can be a blessed. You have to understand that the thing is not necessarily everybody agree with that, right? Everybody, especially if you know, go to India, you will know, in Indian certain religion, when you go there, you have to be very noisy, so that to show that really the vibrance is there. It is. You have to go there and you know. So at first I thought, because I remember when I become a monk, I always thought, oh, Indian tradition and Zen because about meditation, even though we have different idea about meditation, but when I go, it's not. Other places, all the time, and that show really, you know, vibrant, working. But now here, this passage first to telling you that, and then the Ajatasattu, that by the king at the time, when he at first he would fear, but he knew that actually he should look at the thing in a different way now. So the calmness itself, that he should look at it. And then he even say the word with that kind of calmness, and then, you know, he would hope that kind of thing would be a bless for his prince, you know. Anyway, now the other thing, he would sit one side. What does it mean by that?
Is it not a custom to sit on one side? You cannot sit in the front, that's confrontation.
Yeah, according to Vinaya, same thing. You don't sit people, like, that's why I always tell you, you are study Buddhism here, and don't commit the wrong thing unless they ask you to do so. But when you first sit, you always, even the chair was put it right in front of you, do not sit right in front of there, okay? So especially when you sit on the floor, then you don't go sit right in front, you always sit on one side. But don't sit two sides, okay? He have to turn his head too much, it's difficult. Okay, so, and also the one side, even sometimes the commentary explain the one, it here, not just because the side is also a certain distance required. The one here could be referred to a certain distance as well, okay? Okay, aside with the distance, okay, you could say. All right, and then what happened? What happened? After that, he said one side.
Then he asked a question.
Yeah, what question?
Just basically you can achieve some type of happiness in life. Why do you have to become a monk?
Mm-hmm.
Like what's being a monk that's superior to that?
Yeah, what is superior to be a monk? So, and of course, and the Buddha said, can I ask you a question first before I answer you, right? Mm-hmm. So he got a permission. So, I mean, so basically permission kind of like, you know, that's a very skillful way of conversation, you know, say that, can I ask you a question first before I answer you? So, and then he was asking that, what if that you have a slave or a barber or people who are working under you, but later on they said that they have their job done now, they want to become a monk, they want to become a recluse. That's why I don't like the translation. I rather like the word recluse because it's very clear. It's not about just contemplative life, because you can be contemplative life with any kind of status, right? But that kind of life, he say he want to give up that kind of life, and then he joined the Samañña, mean the recluse life, you know. Not the Brahma life. Brahma you can marry, But the recluse life is very clear in this sutra. Define mean you cannot marry also. So and then they become a monk, or you could say a monk or recluse. When he become a recluse that time, and that time he didn't say the word monk, he just says a recluse. When they become a recluse, and then because he was talking about general term, when the recluse, they become a recluse, and then once you meet them again as a king, what do you do? So of course he have to serve the recluses, you know. So then actually by asking the Buddha asking his question, what we call the paripucca, mean so asking questions. Sometimes the Buddha actually didn't want to answer the question, but just by asking the question is one of the way. Just then you have the answer. You know, that person will have to answer himself. Then he understand, okay, you know, of course, for sure, at least in that time, at that time, the culture is, if anyone become a recluse, even a king has to be served that recluses also. So and then asking the question, what is the benefit? What is the benefit to become a reclusus? It's the answer is there, right? So that's the thing. Okay, but of course this doesn't mean apply to in America. But you know, but I'm just saying that you have to understand that he was answering to the king, okay, Ajatasattu, and that kind of culture. And then the second question. Anyone beside you, you can. Not that I don't allow you to say, unless nobody wants to say. So please give somebody other chance. What is the second question? What's the second question the King Ajatasattu posed to the Buddha? Anyway, I will say the question first. We can have a little break. Wait until the break time.
It's the same question.
Yeah, he repeated it.
She just say, well, is there another thing that's better than that? It's like, what are other perks of being a monk or a recluse?
Okay, anyway. All right. So I guess why don't we take a break? You have the water, and then during the break you can have a little glance through it. Okay. Right, I will see you if you're back in 5, it will be great, otherwise 10 minutes. I don't want to force you, you know. So, all right, I will see you in either minutes time. Which minutes time? Okay.